He turns 90 years old next month.
I used to drink a lot. I used to smoke a lot of cigarettes. Now I don't. I don't believe life ends ever. You know? No, I think we probably come back as ourselves, pretty much.
Some other form.
Yeah. I'll be back in a minute.
They said he'd never make it past 40, that the outlaw lifestyle, the nonstop touring, and the open defiance of Nashville's elite would burn him out fast. But at 91, Willie Nelson finally confirms the rumors. And yet, behind the braids, behind the jokes, and the joint-smoking cowboy image, lies a story very few truly understand. Because Willie Nelson's life isn't just one of country music glory. It's a tale of survival against impossible odds. He built an empire, lost it all, and clawed his way back through tragedy, debt, and the kind of pain even legends try to forget. This is the story they never told you. The boy from a forgotten Texas town who rewrote American music, then nearly lost everything. Willie Hugh Nelson was born on April 29, 1933, in Abbott, Texas, a town so small you could drive through it in under a minute. Raised by his grandparents after his parents left, young Willie learned about hard work early. He was picking cotton by age 6, his hands blistered from the Texas sun. But his salvation came in the form of a battered guitar and the soft voice of his grandmother, who taught him to play. He didn't just play music, he breathed it, writing songs by first grade, performing in local dance halls by high school, and soaking in everything from Western swing to polka. Willie was a sponge. But even then, no one imagined the awkward, red-headed kid from the cotton fields would one day stand toe-to-toe with giants like Johnny Cash and Bob Dylan. After a short stint in the Air Force, cut short by back issues, Willie drifted. He sold encyclopedias door to door, worked as a disc jockey, and played honky-donks at night. But it was in Nashville in the early 60s where he quietly began changing the game. Songwriting was his backdoor into the industry. His composition, Crazy, recorded by Patsy Cline, became one of the most played jukebox songs in history. He penned Nightlife for Ray Price and a stream of hits for artists who often earned the glory, but rarely the credit. Still, something didn't fit. Nashville was polished, conservative, rigid. Willie was anything but. By the early 1970s, he'd had enough. He left Tennessee for Texas, growing his hair long, wearing jeans instead of rhinestones, and teaming up with fellow rebels like Waylon Jennings. Together, they launched the Outlaw Country movement, a rebellion against the plastic perfection of the industry. Willie's breakout moment came in 1975 with Red-Headed Stranger. The album was raw, stripped down, and deeply emotional. Critics said it would flop. Instead, it went multi-platinum. Blue Eyes, Crying in the Rain earned him his first Grammy. Willie Nelson wasn't just a songwriter anymore. He was a star. But success, as it often does, came at a price. Fame brought money, and money brought vultures. Throughout the late 70s and early 80s, Willie's empire expanded rapidly. Concerts, endorsements, business ventures. He trusted his accountants at Price Waterhouse to manage the growing fortune. They offered him tax shelters, investments meant to reduce his IRS burden. Willie, always more focused on music than numbers, signed. Then came the audit. In 1990, the IRS announced that Nelson owed a staggering $16.7 million in back taxes and penalties. Nearly everything he owned was seized: homes, studios, even ranch equipment. Only one thing was spared: Trigger, his iconic guitar, hidden away by his daughter before federal agents could take it. It wasn't just a financial collapse. It was a public shaming. Newspapers mocked him. Fans were stunned. How could a legend fall so far? But here's the twist. Willie didn't hide. He didn't declare bankruptcy. He got creative. In 1992, he released an album called The IRS Tapes, Pulled by My Memories. Every sale sent money straight to the government. He hit the road, touring harder than ever, and fans responded. Within a year, he had cleared most of the debt. It was a comeback no one saw coming. But even as he fought off the IRS, tragedy struck closer to home. Willie's son, Billy, passed away in 1991 after years of personal struggles. The loss shattered him. He rarely spoke about it publicly, choosing instead to bury the grief in music in motion. By the early 2000s, Willie Nelson had become more than just a country singer. He was a symbol of independence, rebellion, and resilience. He co-founded Farm Aid in 1985 alongside Neil Young and John Mellencamp, raising millions for struggling farmers. He became a vocal advocate for cannabis legalization and animal rights. His philanthropy wasn't flashy. It was constant, grounded, and deeply personal. But even legends age. And in recent years, the whispers began. Rumors about his health, his memory, his ability to perform. And that's why, when Willie finally addressed them, It made headlines. "Well, I'm 91 and some change," he told fans in 2024. "So I ain't fretting over it. I feel all right. Nothing's hurting me. I got no cause to stew about dying." It wasn't bravado. It was clarity. A man who had lost fortunes, family, and friends, and still found a reason to smile. Yet even as he finds peace, new shadows loom. Because in the next chapter of his story, we'll uncover the darker truth about Willie's final battles. The vandalism that shocked his hometown, the legacy he's racing to preserve, and the family secrets he only recently made public. Stay with us. As the years caught up with him, Willie Nelson seemed to slow, but only just enough to notice the world around him changing. At 91, he still writes. He still plays. But lately, his legacy has come under threat in unexpected ways. In 2012, the city of Austin honored him with a statue, a towering bronze likeness standing proud on Willie Nelson Boulevard. It was meant to be timeless, a tribute to the outlaw who turned country music upside down. But in 2024, that statue was vandalized. Spray paint, slurs, defacement. The act stunned Austin. For a man who'd only ever promoted peace, sustainability, and the right to be free, it was a jarring contradiction. Willie didn't lash out. He didn't even comment at first. When he did, it was measured like always. "Statues can get scrubbed clean," he said, "but good music sticks around longer." Still, the attack wasn't just on a statue. It was a reminder. Time doesn't always reward legends with kindness. While fans and officials restore the monument, the incident sparked deeper questions. What happens to a legacy when the man behind it is still alive, but the world keeps rewriting his story? Willie's answer was simple: keep going. In September 2023, he released Bluegrass, his 76th solo album, a return to roots. The record proved that age hadn't dulled his voice or his pen. But just 2 months later, another album dropped, Last Leaf on the Tree, a title that felt like a gentle warning. A reminder that most of the outlaws were gone. Johnny, Waylon, Christopherson, barely holding on. Willie, still standing, but alone. He'd long leaned on his sister, Bobby Nelson, his bandmate, his piano player, his lifelong companion. When she passed in March 2022 at the age of 91, something shifted in Willie. Their joint memoir, Me and Sister Bobby, had come out just 2 years earlier, filled with laughter, love, and memories of the road. Now, those memories were all he had. And family, for Willie, has always been a complicated road. He married 4 times. First to Martha Matthews, with whom he had 3 children. That marriage ended in 1960. His second, to Shirley Colley, dissolved when she discovered he had fathered a child, Paula, outside the marriage. That revelation came in the form of a hospital bill. Willie didn't deny it. He married Paula's mother, Connie Kepke, the following year. 2 more daughters came from that union, Paula and Amy. Then, finally, in 1991, he married Annie D'Angelo, his 4th and current wife. Together, they had 2 sons, Lucas and Micah, both musicians. Willie's family is large, woven with love, regret, and complexity. But some stories didn't come to light until decades later. In 2012, he revealed he had a daughter named Renee, born in 1953, whom he hadn't known about for most of her life. Her mother, Mary Haney, had kept the child a secret. Willie welcomed Renee into the family without hesitation. They formed a bond, but time was not on their side. Renee passed away in 2017. For a man who's sung about heartache for 70 years, few lyrics could match the pain of losing a child you barely got to know. And yet, for all he's lost, Willie continues to give. His philanthropy isn't a footnote. It's a core part of who he is. In 1985, facing the growing crisis of corporate farming, he co-founded Farm Aid. It wasn't just a concert, it was a movement. Over the years, it's raised more than $80 million for family farmers and continues to advocate for sustainable agriculture. He's spoken out on environmental issues, animal rights, and cannabis reform long before it was trendy or safe to do so. He even launched his own line of legal cannabis, Willie's Reserve, not just to profit, but to normalize the plant he's long believed in. And in 2023, the University of Texas announced the creation of the Willie Nelson Endowment for uplifting rural communities. A fitting legacy for a man whose heart never left the small town where he was born. Still, not all wounds heal with money or music. In 1991, Willie's son Billy passed away. The official reports called it a tragic death after years of battling inner turmoil. Willie has rarely discussed it, but those who knew him say the loss changed him in ways he couldn't express. He took fewer risks with business, grew more private, focused on the road, where he could disappear into the music. Yet even as the losses mounted, he never stopped moving forward. By 2025, Willie Nelson's net worth was estimated at $25 million. Not a fortune by celebrity standards, but a hard-earned recovery from the IRS collapse of the 1990s. He lives primarily at Luck Ranch, a 700-acre spread in Spicewood, Texas. The name isn't ironic, it's defiant. Luck, Texas, is Willie's own little town, a sanctuary for animals, artists, and family. He also owns a home in Maui, Hawaii, where he retreats to rest, write, and breathe. In both places, he surrounds himself with the people and things that keep him grounded. His wife, Annie, his sons, Lucas and Micah, and Trigger, the weathered guitar he's had since 1969. Willie once said, "If I die when I'm high, I'll be halfway to heaven." But lately, he talks less about heaven and more about here. About this moment. About how lucky he feels just to still be here. And as the rumors swirl, as the internet speculates, and as fans brace for the inevitable, Willie Nelson keeps showing up. But even as he smiles through the pain, a final test looms. One that could change the way he's remembered forever. Because there's one final performance left, and whether it ends in redemption or quiet heartbreak depends on what happens next. If you ask Willie Nelson what keeps him going, he'll say it's the music, not the fame, not the fortune, just the sound of guitar, a good melody, and a crowd of people who still care. But the truth is, there's more to it than that. Because in his quiet moments, away from the spotlight, Willie has been racing against time. Not just to record one more album, but to protect the thing most artists never get to write themselves, their legacy. In recent years, as his health became the subject of speculation, Willie started taking careful steps to preserve his story before others could rewrite it for him. That meant getting honest. He opened up about his regrets, like trusting the wrong people with his finances or staying silent when others needed him to speak up. He admitted that the outlaw image, while liberating, sometimes pushed people away. It gave him freedom, but cost him closeness. And he finally spoke publicly about mortality. In one interview, when asked what he hoped people would say after he was gone, he replied, "That I showed up, that I did what I came to do." Simple, direct, and deeply Willie. But even in this reflective stage of life, Nelson hasn't let sentiment slow him down. He still headlines the 4th of July Picnic, his annual Texas music festival. In 2025, it made headlines again, not just because it featured Bob Dylan, the Mavericks, and Asleep at the Wheel, but because it marked the first time in decades that Willie opened the show with a new song. Not a hit from the 70s, not a reworked classic, a brand new track about getting older, watching friends fade, and finding peace in small things, like a sunrise or a son's voice on the phone. The audience fell silent. Then, standing ovation. It was clear this wasn't just a performance. It was a farewell letter in disguise. But make no mistake, Willie isn't going quietly. While many artists his age retreat from the public, Willie keeps doing interviews, writing books, and recording in studio sessions with younger musicians. His collaborations with artists like Casey Musgraves, Jack Johnson, and Chris Stapleton have introduced him to new generations. And each project reinforces a single truth. Willie Nelson's story is still being written. Still, even icons need backup. Willie's sons, Lucas and Micah, have become central to his music and his life. They don't just play alongside him. They carry his sound, his humor, and his humanity into a new era. Lucas, especially, has carved out his own path with the band Promise of the Real, earning critical praise for his songwriting and guitar work. And Micah, known on stage as Particle Kid, brings an experimental edge that Willie himself once embraced. They are his future, and in many ways, his redemption. Because for all the heartbreak, Willie Nelson has ended up surrounded by what matters most: family, music, and purpose. And yet, even now, there's one chapter he rarely discusses, a moment buried beneath the headlines, overshadowed by the IRS scandal, the chart-topping hits, and the outlaw myth. It's the quiet heartbreak of being forgotten. In an age where fame is measured in clicks and algorithms, Willie has watched as younger fans scroll past his name. He's aware that some see him only as the old country guy or the weed-smoking grandpa with the braids. They don't know about the 16-hour studio sessions, the all-night drives through frozen highways, the decades spent building something from nothing. And that more than anything is what drives him now. Not ego, not money, just the need to leave behind something real. That's why he still tours, still records, still stands in front of crowds who can't believe the man on stage is 91. Because every note he plays is a reminder. Legends don't disappear. They echo. And yet, he knows the end is closer than ever. Recently, fans noticed a change in his voice. Softer, thinner. His signature phrasing now sometimes cracks under the weight of time. On stage, he's seated more often, letting his fingers do the talking while the band carries the beat. He laughs about it, says, "It takes longer to tune trigger than to play a set." But beneath the jokes, the reality is setting in. The road, which once saved him, is now catching up. Still, there's one thing no age, no illness, no rumor can take from Willie Nelson: the truth of who he's always been. A songwriter, a survivor, a man who lived through bankruptcy, personal loss, public judgment, and still managed to show up night after night to give people something honest. And as his life enters its final act, the question isn't what happens when Willie Nelson dies. It's what we choose to remember. Because while the headlines will talk about Grammys and Farm Aid and IRS debts, the real story is quieter. It's in the towns where his songs still play on AM radio. It's in the letters fans send, thanking him for a lyric that got them through a hard year. It's in the family dinners where his children and their children carry on the melodies he once scribbled in motels between gigs. The truth is, Willie Nelson's ending won't be tragic. It'll be sacred. But before the curtain falls, there's still one more truth he's been holding back. A final beat that may change everything we thought we knew. What makes his story so powerful isn't that he beat the odds, but that he embraced them. That he kept showing up even when the lights dimmed and the checks stopped and the grief was too much to bear. And what he leaves behind isn't just music. It's a roadmap for how to live. With grace, with humor, with truth. The man who once slept in vans between shows and recorded songs in motel bathrooms is now one of the most decorated American musicians in history. But ask him what he's proudest of, and he won't name a Grammy or a statue. He'll tell you it's the music that made people feel less alone. The letters from strangers. The feeling of knowing that for a few minutes, a song could do what nothing else could: heal. That's what Willie Nelson gave us. And maybe that's why his passing, when it does come, won't feel like an end. It'll feel like a continuation. Because his words will echo, his melodies will linger, and his story, one of hardship, humor, heartbreak, and healing, will never really fade. So whether you grew up hearing On the Road Again in your father's pickup or discovered him through a Spotify algorithm, you've felt it. That ache in his voice, that quiet strength in his chords, that unmistakable soul of someone who lived hard and loved harder. And in the end, that's the legacy that matters. Willie Nelson didn't just survive the music industry. He outlasted it. And in doing so, he reminded us all of something simple and beautiful: that you don't have to be perfect to be unforgettable. You just have to be real. Let us know in the comments what you think of his story. And if you enjoyed this, subscribe for more Forgotten Legends.